2 years ago, I was sitting in my car in a Target parking lot in suburban Ohio, looking at my phone, trying to figure out why my checking account showed $340 11 days after payday. I had just spent $23 on a candle inside. I did not need the candle. I already owned candles. I bought it because it smelled like cedar wood and the week had been difficult, and somehow that felt like a reason. I made $67,000 a year. I had been making over $55,000 for 5 years straight. I had $1,100 in savings. That was it. 5 years of decent paychecks, and I had $1,100 to show for it. I was not dealing with a medical crisis. I had no catastrophic debt. I was not supporting a family of 6 on one income. I was a single person with a stable job and a completely ordinary life who somehow could not hold on to money no matter how much of it arrived. That night, I found an article about a Japanese budgeting method called Kakeibo. It was invented in 1904. It required no app, no spreadsheet, no financial advisor. Just a notebook and a pen and 4 questions asked honestly once a month. I was skeptical. I had tried budgeting apps. I had color-coded spreadsheets. I had set spending alerts on my bank account that I learned to ignore within 2 weeks. None of it worked because none of it changed the thing underneath, which was that I had no real relationship with where my money went. I tracked it occasionally. I never truly faced it. What caught my attention about Kakeibo was not the system itself. It was a detail in the article about Japan's broader cultural relationship with money. In Japan, financial restraint is not considered deprivation. It carries genuine social respect. There is a word, setsumashi, that roughly translates to modestly reserved. The quieter and simpler you live, the more admired you are. Wealth in Japan is hidden, accumulated invisibly, never performed. In America, it is the opposite. Wealth is a display, a new car, a new wardrobe, a holiday you post about. These are signals of success. And the financial industry is built entirely around encouraging you to make those signals as expensive and as frequent as possible. I started applying Japanese money principles one at a time over the following year. I did not get a second job. I did not cancel everything. I did not move somewhere cheaper or eat rice every day. I changed the philosophy underneath my spending. In 12 months, I went from $1,100 in savings to just over $21,000. Same job, same apartment, same salary, completely different outcome. This is about what I changed. 7 Japanese money principles that most people in the US, the UK, and Canada have never applied, and what they are quietly worth over time. Principle 1. Kakeibo, the handwritten household ledger. Kakeibo was created by Hani Motoko, Japan's first female journalist, at a time when women in Japan had almost no financial autonomy. She designed it specifically so that ordinary people with no financial training could take full control of their household spending, using nothing but a notebook and a pen. The system is almost offensively simple. At the start of every month, you write down 4 numbers by hand. How much money is coming in, how much you need for fixed expenses, how much you intend to save, how much you have left to spend freely. Then every single day, you record what you spent and sort each purchase into one of 4 categories: needs, wants, culture, which covers education and experiences, and unexpected expenses. At the end of the month, you ask yourself 3 questions. How much did I actually save? What went well? What do I want to do differently next month? That is the entire system. It has survived for over 120 years, while dozens of sophisticated budgeting apps have cycled through popularity and abandonment. The reason it works where apps fail is the physical act of writing. When you tap your card and a number flashes on a screen, your brain barely registers a transaction happened. When you sit down that evening and write in your own handwriting, food delivery, $38, want, your hand is telling your brain something the app never could. You chose this. This was discretionary. This is what your money became. Practitioners report reducing unnecessary spending by up to 35%. My first month, I hit 19%. On my income at the time, that was approximately $1,060 recovered in a single month from a notebook that cost $4. Principle 2. Mottainai, the deep shame of waste. Mottainai has no direct English translation. It is the feeling of genuine regret and discomfort that arises when something useful is wasted, discarded, or undervalued. In Japanese culture, wasting a resource, food, fabric, money, time, carries a moral weight that simply does not exist in Western consumer culture. The USDA estimates American households waste roughly 30% of the food they buy. That is approximately $2,100 per household per year thrown directly into the garbage. I tracked my own food waste for 1 week. I photographed everything I threw away. Half a bag of salad, leftover pasta I had told myself I would eat tomorrow for 4 consecutive days, 2 yogurts past their date, a quarter of a roast chicken. I was discarding roughly $35 of food every single week. That is over $1,800 a year, leaving my refrigerator without entering my body. I started cooking from what I already had before buying anything new. I started freezing leftovers the same day rather than the day they went bad. My grocery bill dropped by 27% in 3 months. I was eating the same amount. I was simply wasting far less. Mottainai extended beyond food. I started finishing things before replacing them, using products completely, repairing before discarding. The phone with a cracked screen protector does not need a new phone. The jacket with a loose button does not need a new jacket. The pair of headphones with a fraying cable needs a $6 replacement cable, not $200 headphones. Every time I caught the impulse to replace something still functional, Mottainai gave me a word for why I was pausing. That word was enough. Principle 3. Hara Hachi Bu. Stop at 80%. This principle comes from Okinawa, the Japanese region with one of the highest concentrations of centenarians in the world. It means eat until you are 80% full rather than eating until you are completely satisfied. Stop before the feeling of fullness arrives because fullness arrives 20 minutes after the point at which you should have stopped. The financial application is not about food. It is about margin. It means you do not fill your life to 100% capacity. You leave 20% of your income untouched. You live as though you earn slightly less than you do. That remaining 20% does not get spent. It moves automatically to savings and investments on the day after your paycheck lands. You never see it in your spending account, so your spending brain never counts it as available. The U.S. personal savings rate in early 2026 sat at around 4%. The Japanese cultural default targets 20%. On a $60,000 salary, that gap is the difference between saving $2,400 a year and saving $12,000. Over 30 years at 8% average investment returns, that gap compounds to the difference between approximately $293,000 and $1.47 million. Same salary, different margin. Principle 4. Kaizen. Improve by 1%. Kaizen means continuous small improvement. Toyota made it famous in manufacturing, but in Japanese daily life, it applies to everything, including money. The principle is that you do not attempt to overhaul your financial life in one dramatic resolution. You improve by 1% repeatedly over a long period of time. Applied to money, Kaizen looks like this. This month, you reduce your dining out spending by 10%, not 50. 10. Next month, you increase your automatic savings transfer by 1%. The month after, you audit your subscriptions and cancel one. Then you negotiate one bill. Then you switch one branded product to a generic equivalent. Each change is so small, it requires almost no willpower. Each change is so easy, your brain does not register it as a threat. The reason most January financial resolutions collapse by March is neuroscience. Your brain's amygdala, the threat detection system, activates when you attempt large, sudden changes. It reads a 50% spending cut as danger and fights back. Kaizen flies below that radar entirely. 1% changes accumulate invisibly until 12 months later you look at your savings rate and genuinely cannot identify the single moment everything shifted, because there was no single moment. There were 12 small ones. Principle 5. Ikigai. Know what the money is for. Ikigai translates roughly to reason for being. In the West, it has been repackaged as a career framework. Find what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. But in Japan, Ikigai is not about career. It is about having a purpose that gives structure and meaning to daily life. Applied to money, Ikigai answers the question that no budgeting app ever asks. What is the money for? Most people in America accumulate money without purpose or spend it without intention. They save because they are supposed to, or they spend because something looked appealing in that moment. There is no guiding philosophy underneath the behavior. When you define what your money is actually building, a specific life, a specific freedom, a specific person you are trying to become, every spending decision becomes a vote for or against that life.
My friend David defined his financial purpose as being present for his children's childhoods without the constant background noise of financial stress. Once he had that clarity, unnecessary purchases did not just feel expensive, they felt irrelevant. He did not need more willpower, he needed a reason.
Principle 6. Wabi-Sabi. Find satisfaction in what you already have. Wabi-Sabi is the Japanese aesthetic of finding beauty in things that are imperfect, impermanent, and incomplete. A wooden table with scratches that tell the story of 10 years of family meals. A sweater with a small repair that shows how long it has been loved. A phone with a scuffed corner that still makes every call you need to make. The consumer economy depends on your dissatisfaction with things that still work. Every product announcement, every seasonal collection, every upgrade cycle is engineered specifically to make the thing you already own feel insufficient. Wabi-Sabi is the direct antidote. It is the practice of finding genuine satisfaction in what already serves you, rather than reaching for the replacement. Americans spend roughly $9,500 a year on categories most driven by aesthetic dissatisfaction: apparel, home furnishings, and consumer electronics. If Wabi-Sabi reduced that spending by even 25% by helping you keep things longer, repair instead of replace, and appreciate what you already own, that is $2,375 a year redirected. Invested at 8% over 25 years, that single shift in philosophy produces approximately $183,000.
Principle 7. Chokin. Save first, spend what remains. Chokin means savings in Japanese, but in practice it represents a specific sequencing habit that is the structural opposite of how most Western households operate. The typical Western pattern is earn, spend throughout the month, and save whatever remains. In practice, nothing ever remains because spending expands to fill available income. Parkinson's law applies to money exactly as it applies to time. Work expands to fill the time available, spending expands to fill the income available. Chokin breaks this by reversing the sequence. The moment money enters your account, a fixed portion leaves immediately into a savings or investment account before you touch anything else. You spend whatever remains after saving, not whatever remains after spending. The difference sounds small. It is structural. When I automated a $600 transfer to a high-yield savings account on the morning after every payday, my spending brain stopped counting that money as available. Within 6 weeks, my spending had naturally contracted to fit the remaining amount without any conscious effort. I did not feel the reduction. I did not budget around it. My brain simply recalibrated to the new reality. In 12 months, that single automated transfer built $7,200 in savings I would not otherwise have accumulated, because previously I had proven across 5 years of trying that I would never voluntarily save it from the leftover. The people who save the most are not more disciplined than you. They are more automated. They implemented Chokin without knowing the word for it.
Every one of these principles operates on the same underlying logic. Small, consistent inputs applied repeatedly over time produce results that are wildly disproportionate to the effort they require. A $4 notebook and 15 minutes a month of honest accounting does not sound like a wealth-building strategy. Neither does stopping before you feel completely full, or finding a way to love the jacket you already own, or automating $600 before you can spend it. But these behaviors, stacked on top of each other, practiced month after month and year after year, produce something that no income level produces on its own. They produce a relationship with money that is intentional, grounded, and sustainable. The woman I was 3 years ago, sitting in a Target parking lot holding a candle she did not need, with $340 left 11 days after payday, did not need a higher salary. She needed a different operating system. The operating system Japan built over a century ago and passed quietly from generation to generation while the West was busy performing wealth it had not yet built. You do not need to earn more to start. You need a notebook, a pen, and the willingness to face honestly where your money actually goes. That is where it starts. That is where it always starts.